Hello, everyone, and welcome to Backstage with Carter, a Spotify podcast for all theater kids. Today, I have a very special guest with me. I have the wonderful Mark Wyatt. Mark, say hello, everyone.
Hello to everyone.
Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm well, thanks, Carter.
No problem. Mark, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Oh, gosh, how much to tell. So, probably what you want to know most. I'm 63 years old, so really old guy. I didn't start acting in plays. Well, I wrote my first screenplay when I was about 30. Well, I'm sorry, my first play when I was about 30 years old. It was a one act. I wrote it for a class requirement in seminary before I became a pastor for a number of years. And then when I retired from that, I was on stage for the first time in a play in 2017 at JJP. It was Much Ado About Nothing. So that was my debut. I started with Shakespeare, the simple stuff. And from then I did a few more plays at Joe Jefferson Playhouse, then on at Chickasaw a few. And so in the summer of 2016, I decided I wanted to learn how to write a screenplay. So I bought some books and read them. And a friend of mine named Ross Newell, who was the singer-songwriter for the Mulligan Brothers, wrote a song they recorded called Calamine, which was awesome. Loved it. Very haunting story. So I adapted that. I expanded on it and made it a screenplay. Then, talking to a friend of mine who was on the board of Mobile Theater Guild, we decided to put it on stage. So my first stage play was Calamine in 2019, opened on my birthday. So best birthday I ever had. That was a great day. So after that, as you know, have come other plays, but I'm sure we'll talk about that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so today I had a few questions that I wanted to ask you. It's mostly about you writing your plays. So my first question I wanted to ask you was, how did you get started with writing plays?
Okay, so again, my first one, I didn't really think anything much would come of it. My first one was, I was in seminary in Fort Worth, Texas, so studying to be a pastor. And we had a communications class, where the requirement was to write a one-act play. I had never written a play before, but I was inspired by another teacher that I had that semester, Systematic Theology 2, who brought up a verse in the book of Matthew that he said he had never heard preached on. And so I decided to write a play about it. And basically it says that when Jesus rose from the dead, that the graves of many holy people in Jerusalem also opened, and they came out and went into the city and appeared to many. Now, I've never heard a sermon about that either. What happened to those people? Did they go back to their graves? Did they live out their lives again? We don't know. So I wrote a play called Honey, I'm Home, about a man who has died, and a year later, he's one of those who is resurrected after Jesus is, and goes to see his family and freaks them out. So it's a comedy. It's about 20 minutes. And then after that, it actually was published by a drama company, and it's available now. You can search for it. A couple of churches do it every year around Easter time. It's a good Easter play. But then I just kind of laid it down. I moved into, I wrote my first novel right after that. Didn't really go anywhere, but I wanted to see if I could do it. Didn't write much anymore until I mentioned I wrote that screenplay for Calamine. I just wanted to learn how to write a movie. So I did it, and I was pretty happy with the way it turned out. And then we were able to adapt it to the stage, which was quite a feat. And I can explain that in a little bit if you want. We get into that. But so after that, I realized I really enjoy writing plays. So my next play I wrote was Parcel Post. You might be familiar with that one. So for those of you who don't know, Carter here was the lead, the co-lead with John Richards in Parcel Post. Now, honestly, Carter, when I wrote that, it's the story of an old postal worker who gets the unenviable job of having to escort a 9, almost 10-year-old boy in 1913 on the mail train from Birmingham to Mobile, because in 1913 you could send children through the U.S. mail. So, and that was, of course, your experience, and you were great in that. When I wrote it, I wasn't thinking about it. I gave no thought to how hard it would be to find a good kid actor, a young boy or somebody at least who looked young, who could memorize lines and deliver them with passion and carry that play. And then you came in with your dad the first night of auditions with a headshot and a resume and Broadway study and credits and Save My Bacon, man. So So that was great. So Steve Alsop, the director, and I both wiped each other's brows after auditions because we didn't have to go try to poach somebody from Playhouse or something.
Mm-hmm. So that was so fun.
Yeah. So that play was put on at Chickasaw because I entered it into a contest they have called the Writers Competition, where they do this every fall. They accept submissions of original feature-length plays, not one acts. So it has to be what's called an evening-length play is what that's called. And non-musical, because if you put music in it, generally, I mean, they would have to pay for the rights for those songs. And they didn't want to have to do that because they were taking a chance anyway. So it's a non-musical evening-length play. So Parcel Post won the first year and was produced that next season. And then my next one was I Miss You Already, and it won the competition the next year and just ran a couple of months ago. So that's kind of how I got into it. I put them in competitions. So Parcel Post and I Miss You Already, and my new one called Ups and Downs that doesn't have a home yet, but it's out there. They've all placed in competitions worldwide, which just surprises the heck out of me. But they've gotten to quarterfinals and semifinalists. And so they're getting a little traction, but who knows what will come of it. But I began writing plays because I knew there was a better chance of having my story seen than writing a screenplay and having to wait for a movie to be filmed. So that's how I got into it. And it's been incredibly fun, and rewarding to see these plays acted out on stage.
That's awesome. All right, so my next question that I was going to ask you is, what's been your favorite play that you've written so far?
You know what? I would have to say I Miss You Already, which is one that was just was up at Chickasaw, simply because it's kind of it's autobiographical for me. It was modeled after me, my family, my kids, our relationship, the way we talked, the way we laugh with each other, and so it covers topics that are dear to my heart at the moment. I am a hospice chaplain, and what that means is my job is I get to go talk to and encourage and pray with people who are at end of life stage or whose loved ones are dying, and I get to go hopefully bring them some peace and some hope. And so I Miss You Already talked about that thing of life and being ready, and not leaving anything unsaid with the people we love, and but did it in a funny way. We had a lot of laughs, and so right now that's my favorite, but we'll see what comes next.
Another question I have is, how do you usually come up with ideas of what to write a play about?
It varies. For instance, Parcel Post came from just an article that I happened to read online probably 15 years ago plus about how you could send children through the mail in 1913 in America because of a loophole in the Parcel Post law. Mm-hmm. And so I just made a note on my phone under interesting topics or things I might want to write about someday. And it just sat there for many years, and through many phones, from one phone to the next as I upgraded, that came with me in my notes. And so I was looking for an idea, and I just saw it and decided, you know what, I think I could go with that. So, I kind of chose a format. It's called the buddy comedy. So it was that kind of buddy comedy thing. And so that came from that. I Miss You Already also. So Cal of Mine was inspired by a song by Ross Newell. So was I Miss You Already. He has a song called I Miss You Already. And I just loved that phrase. And so I kind of used it with my family as the template and built it around that. My next one's called Ups and Downs. It's a UPSON, so that's one word. It's a name, Ups and Downs. And it's the name of an assisted living facility, kind of like a nursing home, in 1985. And it is, honestly, that was just inspired by the name. I took my daughter to a birthday party 20 years ago at a place called Epson Estates. And I saw the name and I thought, Epson, Ups and Downs. That'd be a funny name for a place. And I just made a note. And then I used it. So what Ups and Downs is about is there's an older man who gets moved into this retirement home by his daughter because they can't take care of him anymore. And He meets an older woman who's been there for about a year. They fall in love. They find out that their adult children have been enemies for years and hate each other. So it's like an upside down Romeo and Juliet, but with none of the deaths and a lot more laughs. So I hope to find a home for that one, to see it on stage somewhere soon too. But ideas just come from different places. Right now I'm kicking around. I'm developing one that I haven't started writing yet, probably called, the working title is Glow in the Dark Foxes. And it is a play that highlights all the different crazy but true operations that U.S. intelligence has come up with over the years, like CIA and all that, to fight with and to accomplish objectives that are just nuts. Like painting foxes glow in the, dropping them on the Japanese who are superstitious about foxes. So that's kind of I kind of have a play rolling around in my head based on that.
That's great. So my final question that I wanted to ask you is, what is the step-by steps for printing out scripts, making them look like actual books, and getting like your plays to be performed somewhere, like getting the rights and licensing?
Honestly, that is all up for debate. I mean, for right now, it's up for negotiation in the sense of, you have to be flexible. So, and I've said this before publicly, but I'm an author too. I've written a number of books and some biographies and all that, and I have a publishing company as well. As an author, you want to be published, but as a playwright, you want to get produced. That's the most important thing. And it doesn't matter how big the theater is or how many people come. You want your play to be produced. That way you can always say, this play ran these dates at this place. And that's what's important, is getting somebody behind it to do it. And you hope people come see it. And so I've been very lucky and blessed that way that my plays have been produced at Chickasaw. So in the theater world, really what matters for playwrights is connections. You just kind of have to build networking relationships with directors, with theater directors, with reading committee members. So, for instance, with Ups and Downs, I've given a few copies of that out to different theaters locally to see if anybody might be interested in doing it, and then some others hopefully are still coming. So you just reach out to see if anybody's interested. Now, you can also, and when you do that, you kind of, at this level, you sort of have to just kind of work with local theaters, what they can do. I am a member of the Dramatists Guild of America, and the Dramatists Guild they have bylaws and they have contracts, things like that. But frankly, you need to work with whoever's willing to do your play. So, for instance, you can't say to just everybody, okay, you're interested in this play, then the rights are $7,000 plus 30% of the gate. You can't do that for a small community theater. So like with Chickasaw, the idea is, okay, the ticket sales for the show are split 50-50 between the writer and the theater, with the first $1,000 going back to the theater to cover production costs. What I've done is I've called them my friends at Yellowhammer Coffee, who have underwritten my last two shows. So they pay that $1,000. So the production costs then are covered right off the bat. That means that all the ticket sales just go 50-50 between me and the theater. Now, some theaters you can do that with. Others, they're going to want to pay a flat fee, hopefully a fat fee too. But they're going to want to pay a flat fee to get the rights to do it and then just keep all the receipts themselves. And that's fine too. It kind of depends on what they can do. But as a playwright, what you want to make it as easy as possible for somebody to do your play. That's why, and there's one piece of advice I'll give to anybody who's thinking about writing plays: make it easy to stage. Parcel Post we almost weren't able to do Calamine because it was written like a screenplay. And in a screenplay, you can have a scene here, and then you can jump across the country and have another scene for 3 pages and then come back to the other one. Well, you can't do that on the stage very easily. We made it work with simplistic, minimalist staging and things like that. But Parcel Post was almost the same way. It got passed up in the first season because they thought it'd be too hard to stage. So for the next round of the competition, I accompanied it with diagrams of the stage, with the grands and the the travelers and what can be happening behind each division while something else is going on. And you saw a lot of that backstage. So while one level of curtains is closed, things are being changed. And of course, this happens all the time in theater. But they had to know what scene was coming up to change that. So I wrote it in a way they could visualize that. But with Parcel Post, with I Miss You Already and with Ups and Downs, I tried to concentrate on basically one set for Act 1. There are lighting changes, and during the lighting changes, you can do passage of time and that kind of thing. But it was one set, and then the intermission, and then for Act 2, it's another set in front of that one for part of it. Then it goes back to the main set. So in other words, there wasn't hardly any moving set pieces around. There was no timing involved hardly in that. So I would encourage somebody who wants to write a play to think simply. Think about how, and don't just think about how quickly people have to make set changes. Think about how quickly they have to make costume changes too. I did not take that into account, and the actors that I Miss You Already had to do some really quick costume changes that I had not planned on. So try to think, if you're involved in theater and you know backstage, use that backstage thought and bring it to the page so that it'll be easier for somebody to read the play and say, okay, yes, I see how we can do this. Make it as easy as you can for somebody to put the play on.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm so glad that you were able to answer my questions. That's pretty much it. Do you have anything that you would like to say to everyone?
No, just good luck. Break legs. I can say good luck because I'm not inside a theater right now. But but yeah, just keep put yourself out there. Take the chances. Here I am, 63, and I wish I had started this 30 years ago. But there's I'm enjoying myself and having a great time. So I say, write what's on your heart, get it out there, go, act, do, sing, put it all out there before it's too late.
Thank you so much for doing this interview, Mark. I appreciate you being here.
You're welcome, Carter. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Stay tuned for the next one, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Also, the YouTube video that I've been working on should be out. It's a behind the scenes of this very episode, so make sure to go watch that. Stay tuned for the next episode. I'll see y'all next time. Bye, guys.